Hi there. I'd love to know before the video starts if you're subscribed. It helps me out a lot, and you get to see whenever I upload. Otherwise, you could always check me out over on Twitter or in my Discord. And if you want to go the extra step further, you could join my Patreon or join here on YouTube to see videos early if that's more your thing. It all means a lot to me personally, so I hope you enjoy the video and have a great rest of your day. Hello there, my sweet little boyfriend. How are you today? Doing good. I'm glad to hear it. But I know you're lying. I know you're stressed. There's no need to lie to me. Come on, I even came prepared. I'm wearing those arm warmers you like. I've even got some nice drink. Come on. Have some, will you? There you go. I'll have some too. Let's keep it closed for now. Just have it right by us in case the need arises again, you know. But I figure one drink for each of us for now is much more than fine. Come on. You need to calm down and tell me what's making you upset. Getting high. No, no thanks. I don't think that's appropriate right now. Neither of us should be under any influence. A drink. Did you even read the label? It's French sparkling refresher. Well, okay, it's not sparkling. It's not the same stuff that was originally in here. I drank it all. There's more in the fridge. Don't worry. I just figured that maybe having something in a nice bottle that was a little fancier than just a soda bottle, 2 liter, whatever. Having something in something better than a soda bottle might be a bit more appealing, or you know, a juice container, something like that. So I didn't throw away a glass bottle I drank out of, and I decided I'd refill it with some pretty standard juice, to be honest. You know, I'm not trying to get us completely wasted if we're going to be sitting here and talking. Seems like a smart way to go about it. Hey, it's okay to be stressed. It's okay. Yeah. We both know everyone gets stressed. There's no shame in it. Hey, come on. Really now. Everyone gets stressed. There's no ifs, ands, or buts to it. You're going to be upset at some point. You're going to be overwhelmed. Why not be treated well when that happens? Everyone has a limit. I have a limit. You have a limit. Everyone you talk to, everyone you know, the people you don't know online. I know you like being pet with the warmers on. You would like my touch to be even more comfy. Come here. Come on, I'm gonna wrap you in my tails. And I'm gonna basically do a big hug. Yes. Yes, we're right next to each other. Yes, I agree. It's perfect. Come on. Yeah, let's have as much as you want. I don't. Here. All right. Fair enough. My turn. That stuff is almost unbearably sweet. And I guess that means minus the unbearably part. It's very much like you. I can stand how sweet you are. And don't think I ever can't. You're an absolute dream to be around. I love you and, well, there's not much more to say than that. I love you. I appreciate you. I think you're a great person. You know, I ought to just pet you for a while to show my appreciation. I feel like at some point I do just keep saying the same thing. I feel like it's better to help you relax. Yeah, you agree. Just let me know if you want me to stop. I'll just be petting you for a bit. You know, actually, I'll be right back. I'm sorry for stopping petting you, but you know, I just grabbed this book over off the shelf over there. Now, while I can't pet you while I do this, maybe you'd enjoy if I read a short story to you. Just a fairy tale called Dick Whittington and His Cats. Sound good? Yes. Unfortunately, due to one hand needing to hold the book and the other to turn the pages, I can't pet you during this, so I'm going to stop that for a bit. Dick Whittington was a very little boy when his father and mother died. So little indeed that he had never knew them nor the place where he was born. He strolled about the country as ragged as a colt till he met a wagoner who was going to London. He gave Dick leave to walk all the way side by side of this wagon without paying anything for his passage. This pleased little Whittington very much, as he wanted to see London. He had heard from the streets were paved with gold, and he was more than willing to get a bushel of it. But how great was his disappointment, poor boy, when he saw the streets covered in mud instead of gold, and found himself in a strange place without a friend, without food, and without money. Though the wagoner had the charity to let him walk by the side of the wagon for nothing, he parted hastily from Dick when he came to town, and the poor boy was, in a short time, so cold and so hungry that he wished himself in a good kitchen by a warm fire in the country. In his distress he asked the charity of several people, and one of them was a sneer. And in his distress he asked charity of several people, and one of them with a sneer bade him go to work for an idle rogue. That I will, said Whittington. With all my heart, I will work for you if you will let me. This man, who thought this savored the impertinence. I'm sorry, I actually haven't read through these before. I don't know how they go. And obviously, the writing style is older than most things I read nowadays. Though the poor lad intended only to show his readiness to work, gave him such a blow with a stick that he cut his head, so the blood ran down. In his situation, and fainting for want of food, he lay down at the door of Mr. Fitzwarren, a merchant, where the cook saw him. Being an ill-natured woman, she ordered him to go about his business, or, she declared, she would scold him. At this moment, Mr. Fitzwarren came from the exchange and began to scold the poor boy, bidding him to work. Whittington replied that he would be glad to work for anybody who would employ him, and he would be able to, if he could, get some food, for he had eaten nothing for 3 days, and he was a poor country boy who nobody knew. He then endeavored to get up, but he was so weak he fell down again, which aroused such compassion in the merchant that he ordered the servants to take Dick in and give him meat and drink, and let him help the cook to do any work she had given him. Help the cook do any work she had given him. People are often too apt to reproach beggars for being idle, but give themselves no concern to find them work, or to consider whether they are able to do it, which is not true charity. Whittington would have been happy in this worthy family had he not been bumped about by the cross cook, who was always roasting or basting, and when the girl was idle she employed her hands upon poor Whittington. At last, Miss Alice, the master's daughter, was informed of this and took compassion on the boy and made the servants treat him kindly. Besides the crossness of the cook, whose name was Cicely, Whittington had another difficulty to overcome before he could be happy. There was, by order of his master, a lumpy bed placed for him in the garret, but rats and mice often ran over the poor boy's nose and disturbed him in his sleep. After some time, however, a gentleman who came to the master's house gave Whittington a penny for brushing his shoes. This he put in his pocket. On the next day, seeing a woman in the street with a cat under her arm, he ran up to ask the price of it. Because the cat was a good mouser, the woman wanted a great deal of money for it, but on Whittington's telling her he had but a penny in the world and wanted a cat badly, she let him have it. Whittington concealed his cat in the garret, for fear she would be beaten by his enemy the cook. Puss soon killed or frightened away the rats and mice, so the poor lad could now sleep as soundly as a top. But Old Partridge is weird, I know. Soon after this, the merchant, who had a ship ready to sail, called for his servants, as his custom was, that they might offer something they had to sell on the voyage. Whatever they sent was to pay neither freight nor custom, for he thought justly that God Almighty would bless him with more for his readiness to let the poor partake of his fortune. All the servants appeared except poor Whittington, who had neither money nor goods to try his luck, but his good friend Miss Alice, thinking his poverty kept him away, ordered him to be called. She then offered to lay down something for him, but the merchant said that would not do, it must be something of his own, upon which Whittington had said he had nothing in the world but a cat which he had bought for a penny that was given to him. "Fetch the cat, boy," said the merchant, and send her along. Whittington brought poor Puss and delivered her to the captain with tears in his eyes, for he said he should now be disturbed by the rats and mice as much as ever. All the company laughed at this, but Miss Alice, who pitied the boy, gave him some coins to buy another cat. While Miss Puss was being tossed by the billows at sea, poor Whittington was severely beaten at home by his tyrannical mistress, the cook, who used Dick cruelly and made such mockery of him for sending his cat to sea. At that last, unhappy boy determined to run away from his place, and having picked up the few things he had, he set out very early morning of Halloween. He traveled as far as Cheapside, and there sat down on a stone to consider what course he should take. While he was thus ruminating, the bow bells, of which there were 6, began to ring, and he thought their sounds addressed him in this manner: "Turn again, Whittington, thrice Lord Mayor of London." Lord Mayor of London, he said to himself. What would one not endure to be the Lord Mayor of London and ride in such a fine coach? Well, I will go back again and bear all the pummeling and ill usage of Cicely, rather than miss the opportunity of being Lord Mayor. So home he went, and happily got into the merchant's house about his work, before Cicely made her appearance. The ship which had the cat on board was a long time at sea, and at last, by contrary winds, was driven onto the part of the coast of Barbary inhabited by Moors unknown to the English. The people received the voyagers with civility, therefore the captain sent some of his goods to the king. The king was so pleased that he asked the captain and Miss Fitzwarren's business agent, who had always traveled with the boat, to come to his palace, which was about a mile from the sea. Here they were placed, according to the custom of the country, on rich carpets flowered with gold and silver, with the king and queen seated in the upper end of the room. Dinner was brought in, which consisted of many courses, but no sooner were the dishes put down than the amazing number of rats and mice came in from all quarters and devoured everything in an instant. The agents, in surprise, turned around to the notables and asked if the vermin were not offensive to them. "Oh yes," they said, "very offensive. The king would give half his treasure. The king would give half his treasure to be freed of them. For they not only destroy his dinner, as you can see, but they also assault him in his chamber and even in bed. He has to have a guard in his room while he is sleeping for fear of them." The agent jumped for joy. He remembered Dick Whittington and his cat, and he told the king he had a creature on board the ship that would surely dispatch all these rats and mice immediately. The king's heart heaved so high at this joy. This news gave him that his turban dropped off his head. "Bring this creature to me," he said. "If she will do what you say, I will load your ship with gold and jewels in exchange for her." This agent, who knew his business, set forth with the merits of Miss Puss. He told his majesty that it would be inconvenient to part with her, for without her rats and mice would destroy the goods on the ship. But to oblige his majesty, he would fetch her. "Run, run," said the queen. "I'm impatient to see the dear thing." Away flew the agent, and another dinner was prepared in his absence. He returned with the cat just as the rats and mice were devouring that also. He immediately put down Miss Puss, who killed a great number of them. The king rejoiced greatly to see his old enemies destroyed by so small a creature, and the queen was highly pleased and desired the cat to be brought near that she might look at her. The agent called, "Pussy, pussy, pussy," and she came to him. He then presented her to the queen, who stared back. She was afraid to touch the animal who had made such havoc among the rats and mice. However, when the agent stroked the cat and said, "Pussy, pussy," the queen also touched her and cried, "Putty, putty," for she had not learned English. He then put the cat down on the queen's lap, where, purring, she played with her majesty's hand and then sang herself to sleep. The king, having seen the exploits of Miss Puss, and being informed that her kittens would stock the whole country, bargained with the captain and agent for the ship's whole cargo, and then gave them 10 times as much for the cat as for all the rest, on which, taking leave of their majesties and other personages at court, they sailed with a fair wind for England. In London, morning had scarcely dawned when Miss Fitzwarren rose to count over her cash and settle the business for the day. He had just entered the counting house and seated himself at the desk, when somebody came up, tap, tap, at the door. "Who is there?" said Mr. Fitzwarren. "A friend." "What friend comes at such an unreasonable time?" "A real friend is never unreasonable," answered the caller. "I come to bring you good news of your ship, Unicorn." The merchant instantly opened the door, and who should be there but the captain and agent, with a cabinet of jewels and a bill of lading, for which the merchant lifted his eyes and thanked heaven for sending him such a prosperous voyage. They then told him of the adventures of the cat, and showed him the cabinet of jewels which they had brought for young Dick Whittington, upon which he cried out, "Go, send him in, tell him of his fame, and call Mr. Whittington by name." When some who were present told Mr. Fitzwarren this treasure was too much for such a poor boy as Whittington, he said, God forbid that I should be deprive him of his due. It is his own, and he shall have it to a penny. He then sent for Mr. Whittington, who was cleaning the kitchen and would have excused himself from going into the counting house, saying his master's room was swept and his shoes were dirty and full of hobnails. The merchant, however, made him come in and ordered a chair to be set for him, upon which, thinking they had intended to make sport of him, he had been too often the case in the kitchen. He besought his master to not mock a poor simple fellow who intended no harm, but let him go about his work. The merchant, taking him by the hand, said, Indeed, Mr. Whittington, I am in earnest with you, and wish to congratulate you on your great success. Your cat has procured you more money than I am worth in the world, and you may enjoy it long and be happy. At length, being shown the treasure and convinced that all of it belonged to him, he fell upon his knees and thanked the Almighty for his providential care of such a poor miserable creature. He then laid all the treasure at his master's feet, but Mr. Fitzwarren refused to take it in any part of it, and told Dick he heartily rejoiced at his prosperity, and hoped the wealth he acquired would be a comfort to him and make him happy. Dick Whittington then applied to his mistress and to his friend Alice, who both refused to take any part of the money, but Miss Alice told him she was gladdened by his good success, and wished him all felicity. He then gave gifts to the ship's captain, the agent, and the ship's crew for the care they had taken of his cargo. He likewise distributed presents to all servants of the house, not forgetting even his old enemy, the cook, though she little deserved it. After this, Mr. Fitzwarren suggested Mr. Whittington send for the necessary people to advise him how to best dress himself, like a gentleman, and made him the offer of his house to live in until he could provide himself with a better one. Now, it came to pass, when Mr. Whittington's face was washed, his hair curled, and he was dressed in a rich suit of clothes, that he turned out a genteel young fellow. Since wealth contributes much to give a man confidence, he soon grew to be a sprightly and good companion, so much so that Miss Alice, who had formerly pitied him, now fell in love with him. When her father perceived the two young people had as good liking for each other, he proposed a match between them, to which both cheerfully consented, and the Lord Mayor, aldermen, sheriffs, the Company of Stationers, the Royal Academy of Arts, and a number of eminent merchants attended the ceremony, and were elegantly treated with an entertainment made for the purpose. History further relates that they lived very happily, had several children, and died at a fine old age. Mr. Whittington served as Sheriff of London, and, as the Pope bells had told him for many years before, he was 3 times Lord Mayor. The last year of his mayoralty had entertained King Henry V and his queen after his conquest of France, upon which occasion the king, in consideration of Mr. Whittington's merit, said, Never had king such a subject. On hearing this, Mr. Whittington replied, Never had such a king. His Majesty, out of respect for his host's good character, conferred the honor of knighthood on him soon after. For many years after his death, Sir Richard constantly filled a great number of poor citizens and built a church and a college, to which he gave yearly allowance to poor scholars. He also liberally gave to St. Bartholomew's Hospital and other public charities to help the people of London. Well, I guess that's a nice little story about if you sell your cat, you get a huge in return on investment, I guess. I don't know. It really just seemed like win the lottery if you happen to give away something you like. It's a very interesting